When you have a big family, there is so much to do. There's no other way to say it. It's relentless. The sun hasn't come up and you've got kids running around everywhere. They've got to be places. There's toys everywhere. There's push bikes everywhere. There's skateboards in the way. You're unsuccessfully trying to dodge and walk through the house or the yard without stubbing your toe or kicking something. There's so much energy. There's so much activity. It takes a village and the organisational skills of a military commander to keep a family of, how many kids do we have again, honey? 6. So it's a family of 8, but we've got 2 sons-in-law and a granddaughter as well. So we're up to 11 in our family now to try to pull it all together. Some people think we're crazy.
Well, we are.
A little bit. Today, we're going to talk about the nation's fertility crisis and why families are getting smaller, what it's really like to have a big family in 2026. That's next. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast, real parenting solutions every single day. It's Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. We are the parents of 6 daughters, which makes us a little bit unusual.
I just have to stop you. I just need to know, is this going to be like a happy, hopeful podcast or
Oh, that's up to you. Do you want
I'm
people
just a little bit nervous about where this might end up.
We're not trying to convince anybody to have more kids, but we're not telling them not to either. It's more of a... so over the last couple of months, the newspapers, the news media, there's been a whole lot of stories about Australia's fertility challenges. And it's not like it was one article. I'm talking, there's probably been half a dozen that have appeared in my various news feeds and my newsletters and the other things that I monitor to see what's going on and make sure that we're always relevant with what we're talking about on the podcast. There was an article, for example, in the Sydney Morning Herald. The article was published on June 4, so a month and a half ago, by Bronte Gosling. And she cites the following stats. She says, much has been made of Australia's record low fertility rate, which fell to 1.48 in 2024. Part of that can be attributed to the increase in adults leaving their childbearing years without children, whether by choice or against their will. But a maelstrom has swallowed parents who 3 decades ago ordinarily would have had 3 or more children. The soaring cost of living, lack of affordable family-sized housing, and a childcare system in crisis have killed that Australian dream for many. She says, according to census data, single-child families and those with 2 children increased by 45 and 37% respectively between 2006 and 2021. In short, I think what she's really saying is big families are becoming, I don't know if I want to say extinct, but they're certainly uncommon. When people find out we've got 6 kids, big reactions.
When the kids were little, having 6 kids felt like a lot.
Yes.
But now that they're growing up, I often look at it and feel like there's somebody missing because it actually doesn't.
There is somebody missing there. They're in a state or somewhere else. They're not living at home anymore.
But 6 doesn't feel big anymore.
Just on that, when I look at a family photo, so we recently had family photos taken like in the last 2 or 3 months, and there's a picture of you with our 6 girls crowding around you. And I look at it and I think, where are they all? It doesn't. When I look at the photo of just our family without, let's say, our 2 sons-in-law or without Indy, our granddaughter, I look at it and I go, it looks so small. Like just the 8 of us, it looks really, really small. What's going on here? And what's really bizarre about it for me, and I say this with no judgment at all, it's just this comparison. I think to myself, what must it be like to look at a family photo and there's just the 2 adults and a child, or a single parent and a child, or maybe 3 or 4 people maximum in the photo? It's like, where's everybody else? Like, what's going on? What do you do when you need entertainment and there's no one to pinch or push or annoy or niggle? So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. So in today's pod, with that as backdrop, I just wanted to talk about the 3 biggest challenges that we have with big families and the 3 biggest, I'm going to say, blessings or benefits of having a big family. Like, what's it actually like to have a big family in 2026? So I've got my list. I don't know if you've put a list together or not. You said that you knew exactly what you wanted to say, so I'm trusting you. I'm going to start, though, since I don't know what's coming from you, and I'm just going to rattle off my first big challenge in 2026 of having a big family, and it's the energy.
I love how you say that because it's actually not the energy. It's the chaos.
Well, the energy, the chaos. What I was going to say, though, is if I look back through the generations, big families, everybody was outside. Like we weren't contained in a house. We weren't contained in a small yard. Everybody would have been outside. They were riding their bikes, their skateboards. They were down at the park, down at the beach, anywhere but home. Like people didn't stay home, at least not in my mind. When I think about my childhood in the 70s and the 80s, and I think about my parents' childhood and everything they've told me and my grandparents, people only came home to eat and sleep and I guess take care of what had to happen at home, but everything else was outside.
Yeah, so my childhood was a little bit different from you. I didn't actually kind of, I guess, get out of my backyard, but I spent hours and hours in my cubby house or on my swing set.
Yeah. Or climbing the tree.
Yeah,
Yep.
like those are my memories of my childhood. It wasn't playing indoors. I was always outside.
Yeah, so my 2026 challenge, number one, is just, you said chaos, I said energy. With 6 children, there is so much emotion all the time before breakfast.
Is that because we've got all girls?
I've talked to plenty of parents of boys and there's still a lot of emotion. It's usually a bit more physical, a little less emotional, but there's still that chaos, the fights, the scuffles. I guess what I would say is there's not much peace and it's impossible to keep the house clean with 6 children. It's just you walk into the kitchen 10 minutes after you've tidied it up and at least 2 people have already been in there and made a mess and left everything out. And you're constantly having to say, here are the rules. We put things away after we use them. The protein has to go back in the fridge. If the chicken gets left out or the ham gets left out, it's not going to be okay for everyone else to eat. It's relentless from that. So that's
one of the girls actually just cleaned the kitchen this morning before I came home to make my breakfast. And she walked in a few minutes after we'd started, Emily and I. She was like, what are you guys doing? I just cleaned the kitchen. I'm like, oh my gosh, welcome to my life.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Here's my second one. My second one is the cost. So that came up in Bronte Gosling's Sydney Morning Herald article. And for me, I look at what families who have fewer numbers of children have been able to do in terms of the holidays, the trips, the leisure, the cafes. And I know it's not for everybody. Everyone's in different circumstances. Generally speaking, though, having 6 children just means that you are limited in what you can do. You want to go on a holiday, you've got to rent a bigger car, which costs more money. You've got to rent
2 rooms.
2 rooms minimum. Sometimes we've had to get 3 rooms. We didn't really start having family holidays until I was well into my 40s, and our eldest daughter had all but moved out of home. Because we just couldn't afford it in those early years. It was literally impossible. Buying a house that's big enough to hold your entire family. We live in a tiny 3-bedroom home on the Sunshine Coast because that's all we could afford. And we bought the home 5 years earlier, maybe 8 years earlier than we should have, knowing that the kids were slowly going to leave the house and eventually it would be the right size for us. But we're crammed into this house. It is so tight.
Well, that's just because of all the bikes you have.
The extracurricular activities cost a lot of money. And when you've got that many kids, you've really got to be tight on the extracurriculars. The kids can't do whatever they want.
I remember when the kids were younger and we had this grand plan when we had our first couple of children that they could do 2 extracurriculars.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really smart idea until we ended up with 6 and we had 6 times 2.
And we were trying to say, no, if your sister is going to be doing this activity, you just need to do it as well. And they're like,
you're all doing swimming. That's one curricula.
We're all going to go to piano at the same time and we're going to do a piano class for everybody. It's none of this individual tutoring stuff. So expensive.
It's a lot.
So expensive. So we've had to find ways to economise, whether it was with food or whether it was buying older cars or going on holidays that were cheap, as in
staying with the in-laws.
We're going to your parents' place or my parents' place because we just couldn't afford to do it all. It's really expensive to have a big family. Having said that, I would never want money to be the decision that we didn't have a larger family, which is why even though we didn't have the money, we had the kids because that was always it had to be the priority.
I remember when we were thinking about having baby number 6, my excuse that I gave to you was there was one more seat in the car.
So we had one of the, back when they made Prados with 8 seats, we had an old Prado and there was one spare seat. It's like, well, we might as well fill it. After the break, there's one third one. We're out of time. I'm just going to do it in like 15 seconds. Time management. Do I even need to elaborate? when you've got that many kids going in that many directions and you've got your own stuff to do as well, it's a lot. Cleaning, cooking, extracurricular activities, school. What have I missed?
Well, you've missed because you had your list, but you haven't given me any time for mine.
My bad. Okay, what else have you got on the list that are other challenges? You said this has to be hopeful. It's starting to feel a little bit hopeless.
The physical exertion and exhaustion is so real.
Yeah, it's just tiring.
It's very tiring.
Right.
And for me as a mum...
can I sound a little bit one-upsman here on this before we talk about you as a mum? Just generally speaking, I've had conversations with our friends, and this is going to sound terrible from the parenting expert who's doing the podcast to help families to be happy. So I've got to apologise before I even say it, but I'm just going to say it anyway. As a parent of 6, when I'm talking to somebody who's got 1 or 2 kids and they say, oh my goodness, it's so exhausting, I'm like, tell me about it. Tell me how hard it is, because I'm dying here with my 6 kids. I'm so sorry that I've just offended almost everybody. Like, you look at the stats, I've just offended our entire listener base. But people do look at us and say, it's a lot. Like, how do you do it? Because they're juggling 1, 2 or 3 kids and going, holy smokes, this is chaos. This is so energetically, emotionally draining.
Well, that was the last thing I was going to say. Just the emotional drain that it puts on each of us, and sometimes the strain that it actually has created in our relationship as a husband and wife. Yeah. Sometimes not being on the same page, sometimes just the pure stress and agony of trying to grapple with decisions that we're trying to make for our children or with our children, or the decisions that they're making on their own that are just causing ache.
And when you have 6 children, it means that you have to go through this 6 times. You've got to go through puberty 6 times. You've got to go through the first breakup 6 times. You've got to go through, it just keeps on happening. And we look at each other and do we really have to do this again and again? After the break, given that we've already done 28 years of full-time, full-tilt parenting, and we still have at least another 6 to go until we have no more technical dependence, we're going to talk about the benefits of putting ourselves through this. Stay with us. Okay, Kylie, this is going to be the quickest second part of our podcast ever.
That's terrible. You're going to put all the focus and energy on all the problems.
I know.
And then you're going to skim over the benefits.
Oh, but the benefits
Is there no benefits?
The benefits are so great and so powerful that as soon as we say them, everyone will say, that's right. And it'll just sit on our hearts and everyone's going to be like, oh, yeah, I should have more kids. This is not actually a podcast to convince people to have more kids, although we do kind of need to have more kids. And my number one benefit, energy. That was my number one drawback, but it's also the number one benefit. I love it when we get a little bit of peace and quiet, but after a little while of peace and quiet, I start to miss it. I really miss the energy. I miss the buzz. I miss the kids barging into the room and saying, hey, can I talk to you?
It goes both ways, though, because once there's a lot of energy, you miss the peace too.
Very, very much. But it is one of my favourite things.
When we come together on a Sunday night and the whole family comes together, it goes from just kind of, average conversation, and all of a sudden there's chaos isn't the right word. There's beautiful energy. There's synergy. There's this absolute joy of coming together and being with each other, sharing good food and telling stories and laughing and singing. And it's our favourite night of the week.
There's so much going on and it feels so good. It's also really nice when they all go home, the kitchen's clean, we fall into bed. It feels really fulfilling. And so that kind of brings me to my second major benefit, and that is the richness of the multiple relationships, the richness of the belonging, the meaning and the purpose, like the connection. There's always somebody that you can sit with and either be seen by.
It's hard to feel lonely.
Yeah, it really, really is.
I remember when we were looking at buying a house here on the Sunshine Coast, we'd come from a very big house and it was a very open plan, spread out floor plan. And when I sat down with the kids and I just said, okay, so we're looking at buying a new house.
And you were staying in an Airbnb near the beach that was like...
It was a little unit.
It was a tiny unit, and I would come and stay on the weekends. But we had the whole family crammed into this tiny little unit. It was so tight.
And I said to them, what are the things that you loved about our old house? And they told me all the things that they loved. And I said, what is one thing that you would change if you could decide where we lived and what that looked like, what it felt like, what would it be? And they just said, we really loved our old house. We loved that we all had our own space. But you know what? It was really easy for us to disappear. They said the one thing we would change is we want to be closer, especially closer to us, because we had our own wings as such. And I thought that was really strange.
Ironically, since we moved into this small house that they requested that we have so that we could all be close, they started disappearing into their rooms again. It's just that now a couple of them have to share because the house is so small. But yeah, they really crave that connection, that belonging, that closeness. Quick point, and I'll make it very quickly because time's getting the better of us, honey. We've got 2 children now who have moved out, married and moved out. They're absolutely not coming back, right? But our next 2 are going to be gone in the next 2 months. We have children 3 and 4. One of them's heading to the US and staying there as long as her visa allows, and then stepping out and then going back if she can get back in. Like, she's working out her life and plans to live over there if she can make that happen. And we've got another daughter who's about to go away for 18 months to do service work. And so I'm already starting to crave the connection that we're about to lose. It's just so beautiful to have that many people in the house. I don't know how I'm going to handle only having our 16-year-old and our 12-year-old in the house.
Well, if we put this all together, when I think about the difference between having, 1 or 2 children or having a large family, the thing that stands out to be the most is that the chances of someone being willing to take care of you in your old age
we're going to be looked after.
Is pretty good.
And the research shows that does happen, especially if you have daughters.
I was about to say 6 daughters. You're going to be fine. You are going to be fine.
All right, our time is up. Fertility rate, that's the big story, and I just wanted to highlight it on the pod today, but I really wanted to highlight and be clear about having a big family is hard, and especially in 2026. It really is hard. Wouldn't change it for the world.
I know we have to finish, but you tell the story about the gold rush and a young man selling up everything and heading off to make his fortunes. And after he had spent every last cent and he just had this big pile of rocks.
Yeah, no nuggets
next to him.
Show from the panning for gold, just a pile of rocks.
An old prospector kind of walked past her and says, "Looks like you've got a big pile of rocks there." And the guy says, "I've wasted everything. I've lost it all. I've got nothing to show for my time and energy."
Yeah, I want nuggets like you've got in your pouch. He was really upset that he didn't find a single nugget.
And he's like, "This pouch?" And he opens up the pouch, and inside the pouch is just these tiny flecks of gold. And he said, "You're just looking in the wrong place." And so he takes a couple of the rocks that this young man has collected and he hits them together and they crack open. And inside is these like just tiny flecks. And he said, it's not the big nuggets that make you rich. It's the slow, steady accumulation of all of these little gold flecks. And I think about family life, and most days are chaotic. Most days are hard. Like, honestly, it's hard work.
Exhausting.
And we go to bed each night and look at each other and go, is it really worth it? But we've collected over time these tiny flecks of gold, these moments together that have just forged us in such a rich tapestry of life together. And I can't imagine doing life without these kids.
Our pouches are full. Life is so rich. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Mima Hammonds provides our additional support. Tomorrow on the pod, dealing with tragedy in a school environment. Plus, later this week, we talk to Australia's #1 radio announcer, Christian O'Connell, about his new book and how it can help us to blow up the scripts that aren't working in our family. Stay with us this week on the Happy Families podcast.